Okay, great. Well, today we have Zoe Horsefield. Did I pronounce that correctly, Zoe?
You did,
All
yeah.
right, perfect. We have Zoe Horsefield from Christchurch, UK, and she has an amazing Etsy shop, and we're going to talk about all the other things that you're doing right now, called Squeaker Chimp. And I want to know how. We'll talk about where you got that name in a minute. But she makes these tools and accessories for creating paper beads, which I didn't really know what paper beads were until I watched a few of your videos, which are fantastic, by the way. So, Zoe, welcome to Craft Cash Academy.
Hello, hello.
Perfect. Or Craft Cash Summit. There we go. Either one's fine. So, Zoe, let's start with a little bit of your background so the attendees can understand
Yeah.
how did you get into such a niche? I mean, this is so niche. I mean, I've
Mm.
been researching Etsy and helping people with their shops for, I don't know, 5 years, I guess. And I've never, not one time, ever even heard of this. And in fact, before the interview, I'll admit that I had to go watch your videos just to understand. Like, looking at your tools, my brain couldn't make the connection between the tools and actually making the beads. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in this.
So I've always crafted. I've always made things from knitting, crocheting, like little Cindy dolls clothes when I was little, making cards, mosaic. I'll give anything a go. And I got into a little bit of jewellery making, and then it's expensive. It is expensive. And when you're a single mum, you kind of have to cut the cloth to fit. And one day I just happened to come across a video, or it might have even been Pinterest, in which someone said paper beads. And I thought, good Lord, if I could make beads out of paper, then I would have an endless supply of beads. And also, they would be super environmentally friendly because I could use potentially anything. So that's where it started. So I started making the paper beads, and I started with very, very simple equipment, such as a knitting needle or like a bamboo stick. And I really enjoyed it. And I realized I was going to need something that wasn't going to make my hand hurt. So I then, I can't say I came up with the idea. There's quite a few of them around there, but I put my little spin on it and started making a few tools just for myself. And then I started doing a few workshops. Others liked them and bought them. And Squeak Chimp, as it is now, was born.
Oh, that's great. So, so you started. So you started as, I just want to do some crafting. At what point did you realize that you could actually make money selling this stuff to other people?
Uh, that's, I think when I first sold my first set, that's when I realized that I could make them in my spare time and then sell them on. And as long as I was making them so that I made a bit of profit, then I was happy. And to begin with, it was just that little bit of money that would just, buy ice creams in the summer, or take the family out for a little bit of a trip. It was just a little bit of a sideline, and it grew and it grew and it grew to the point now where it's not quite enough to give up work, but we're getting there. We're getting
Hmm.
there.
Yeah, and it looks like, and we'll show a video really really quickly for all the attendees so they
Yes.
understand what we're talking about here. But I mean, obviously, when you say you're doing pretty well, I mean, 1,200 sales,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about your sale volume here in a second. But you're selling every week and shipping every week and making money every
So,
week.
yeah, between Etsy, eBay, and Amazon, it's about 2.5 orders a day I
Oh,
get, which
wow.
is in my stats. Um, so yeah, I can send about 120 orders worldwide a month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
which
That's
when
great.
you're working full time is a lot. It's a lot
Yeah,
to do.
that's true.
Got to be committed.
Okay, so let's go to a video here. Which video? Obviously not the mating turtles video. That's for a different summit.
That,
But
yeah. The X-rated one.
yeah, exactly. This is a G-rated summit, so
Yeah.
we'll skip that
Um,
video.
I'll
But
probably go to, if you scroll down a little bit, probably go to the individual paper beads one, maybe that one,
this one here,
a bit lower, right in the middle at the bottom.
lower. Okay,
Maybe go to that one, yeah.
this one here. Oh,
Yeah,
individual paper. I'm sorry, I was reading in the
that's
wrong
okay.
place.
Hi.
All right. Okay, so that's you.
Yeah, first four.
Okay, so you take the paper,
yeah,
and you talked about earlier in an email, I believe you talked about doing this with. Can you do this with newspaper or any kind of paper?
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I've got some strips here. So I've got strips here, which is, I don't know if you can see that. That is a catalogue. You know,
Oh,
like,
wow.
or like, what do you call them? Like travel agent's brochures for going on holiday. Don't tell them I took them and cut them up. I pretended I was going on holiday. I didn't really. I didn't really want to go on holiday. I just wanted the pretty paper. Shh,
Gotcha.
and so
Mum's the
yeah,
word.
so, yeah, mum's the word. So yeah, look, you just cut them up into strips, and then you can make pretty beads with them. Yeah. So any paper really, cardboard. I find cardboard a little bit trickier, but I know there are some people that love cardboard. They love the thicker stuff. I personally prefer thinner stuff. And yeah, so you can just take a strip and make it into various different shapes. And depending on the shapes, so something like this voodoo bead will have just been made with a long strip of paper, whereas something like this bead, which is more of a bicone bead, would have been made with quite a few layers of this, of a sort of triangular paper. So yeah, you can get all sorts just from paper. Who knew it? Who knew it?
And so all you're doing there is just rolling it on a dowel, basically a metal dowel.
Yeah, so they're called slotted tension pins or spring pins, and I've got a large one here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a little bit of a groove down one side that you pop your paper in. This is quite a large one, and yeah, you just twist.
Wow, that's crazy. And then after you're done twisting, and you've got color there on the edges, and so that's how you can kind of control the design elements. And then when you're done, how do you put some kind of coating or something on it?
Yeah, so you can use all sorts of, you can use varnish, you could use nail varnish, you can use various different glazes like Mod Podge or Decopatch. You know, most of these things are really easily available. And that was one of the things that I loved about paper beads, was that you didn't have to spend a fortune. There are so many crafts out there where, you know, you have to buy this machine or that machine or anything. You could ultimately glaze them with just a bit of PVA glue and you'd get a usable bead, no problem.
Okay, great. All right, so now we understand. Yeah, because you can control all kinds of design elements.
Yeah.
With this color and texture, and like you said, you can go get some brochures and do it.
These beads here, I don't know if are you on me at the moment?
Yes,
These beads here, these are paper beads, but these are massive paper beads.
Wow.
You know, really big ones. And then you've got these ones that are sort of like a trumpet shape. I've also got some resin beads here, but yeah, you can, you know, you can kind of take them to extremes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, super. So now we understand or now I understand, I'm sure some of our attendees at the summit will have already had exposure to this. I mean, this is such a great craft that younger kids can do all the way up to adults. Is fantastic. So you have a pretty big audience of buyers. So speaking of that, what percentage of your buyers are kids? What percentage are people who are doing this for themselves? I mean, have you noticed a pattern?
I would say that's really, I don't know actually, because so I sell all over the world. So I would ship to anywhere. I'd ship to the moon if it had a postcode or a sort code. I'd ship to anywhere. But what I don't see is the age range, or I don't go into the age range of who is buying them, because even if it was a child that wanted it, that it would be the parents that have purchased it for them. So I don't always know. But I would actually say that it's actually probably the majority of the people are probably older wanting to do it. But I know that I've taught workshops involving children, I've done them in schools, and they love it because it's something that they can do, and parents love it because it keeps them quiet, especially in some holidays when it's a rainy day or something. Yeah.
That's great. So you started making the beads because you're wanting to express your creativity. You're picking up different things. I know that you've done some. Is it crocheting or what have you?
Yeah, I mean, name a craft. I've had a go at it. A bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, I suppose you could say. But yeah, I love to create. I love to craft, and I love to make something out of nothing. Something out of something as boring as a white piece of paper, and turn it into something that you'd never know it was paper. You'd never know, what it had originally started at. It's that drive to always be creating, and I can't walk past something without looking at it thinking, that'll make some good beads, or I could use that for that, or I could have a go with that, or what if I changed that around? Or I love that colour combination, I must try that. Because I also make the paper bead templates as well. So as well as the one that you can see there, I'll also make ones where people can purchase them on Etsy. So they're pre-designed for you. And I love doing that as well, because again, it's just another sort of expression of creativity, of being able to sort of design beads for people to use.
And okay, so that gives that sets off another couple questions, but just to make sure I have the narrative right. So you're a crafty person. You saw that this is something you want to try. You kind of fell in love with it. You started doing it for yourself, and then someone said, hey, could you do that for me? And they traded money. What was your first sale? Like, what was the very first time you traded this craft for money?
Yeah, so I think it was a set, probably just individual bead rollers. I think I sold, first of all, I just sold 3mm and 5mm rollers. I thought, do you know what? I might have a go at listing them on Etsy. I'll give it a go, because nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I mean, I've no idea what the listing or the photographs look like now. And I bought, I just bought the minimum amount of stuff I needed, because I just didn't know if it would work. It was that leap of faith of, will I sell anything? And so when it sold, to say I did a happy dance was, I was ecstatic. And yeah, I was so pleased to send my first parcel. And I think it was probably quite a while before I actually accepted that it wasn't a fluke, that people were actually buying them, because there's always that little element of self-doubt in the back of your mind of, oh, well, someone's bought it, but will anyone else? But then people did. They just kept buying and they kept buying. And yeah, and then we're at 1,200 sales on Etsy.
So that's fantastic. Congratulations on your 1,000th sale, by the way. So how, because I've heard that story so many times of crafters, I guess it's part of the human condition. We actually don't believe that what we make is valuable, or that what we know is valuable until someone actually gives us $1. And the first time they do it, we dismiss it as, oh, it was a fluke. It'll never happen again. How many more times did you have to sell before you really understood, like, oh, this isn't a fluke. This is actually a real business. I can do this. It's sustainable.
For me, I think I still think like that. And I think in a way it's good to think like that because it keeps you on your toes. If you sit back and get a little bit complacent and think, oh, these are always going to sell, all I've got to do is list them and off we go, then I think then you can run into problems. Whereas if you always think, right, okay, if they're not selling quite so well now, why are they not selling quite so well? Has Etsy changed something? Are my photos not quite as good as they should be? Or has some setting changed? Or could I put them on sale or something? I think if you sit back and just think, oh, well, this is a winner, you're just not, you're not going to move forward. You've always got to be thinking, what do I need to do now in order to keep sustaining this?
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a fantastic point. So you sold some to some people locally, and you thought, okay, people are opening up Etsy shops. I'm going to have a go at that. And then you open up your Etsy shop and you start getting orders. And then what was the next jump in sales? Like, did you notice that, after your first initial kind of trickle of Etsy sales, what did you change to get the next level or consistent sales? Was there something that you added or changed?
Yeah, so when I started, I did not understand Etsy at all. Unlike probably a lot of sellers when they first start, they list 2 items and don't really think too much about the description or the photos. They don't do that background research of what does an Etsy item actually need to look like on there. And so I think for probably quite a while, I maybe slowly increased my range and added a few more items, but it evolved. I think that's the easiest way to say it, is it evolved. And it evolved as I evolved and I understood more about it. And I had a big jump maybe 2 years ago in sales, in which it really picked up because I started to understand how to do Etsy properly, or how it was a couple of years ago with the SEO from back then. And I started to list more items, and obviously the more items you've got, the more chances you have of getting sales. And then I've kind of revamped it again. I've revamped my photos. You can probably spot some older photos compared to some newer photos. And so you can see ones where I've got my hand in the photos. Don't like those so much. We're going to go for the other photos which are further up, in which I've got the with the props in, for the different themes, the sea glass. And it's just about getting more items up and always taking that risk. I think having a business is a bit like investing, because you've got to invest in it in order to get rewards out of it. And it's a bit of a risk because you never know whether it's going to pay off, and you hope it's going to pay off, and you've just basically got to work hard in order to get it to pay off.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. And so you have the Etsy, you have your Etsy shop, you have an Instagram account with over 1,000 followers there. And just to put it in context, this is for paper beads. This isn't for this isn't for learning how to draw or something that just attracts, thousands and thousands of, people. That's really amazing. And then your YouTube channel, it looks like your YouTube channel, you do a lot of just teaching, right? I mean, these are instructionals.
So again, one of the things for me is I've completely gone over to eco-friendly packaging. So I send everything out in boxes, no more plastic bubble wrap envelopes, and we use paper tape, not plastic tape. And so to print out instructions and to send people instructions kind of seemed a little bit sort of counterproductive to the eco-friendly idea. So then I thought, well, actually what we really need is some tutorials online. And so that's when I started doing YouTube tutorials to go hand in hand with the beads and the bead rollers that I send and the templates. So that, because I think a lot of people are visual learners as well, and not everyone wants to read something. They'd actually rather have someone in their room with them actually doing a tutorial right in front of them.
Wow,
so that learn along.
Yeah, that is a fantastic tip. I've actually, it's rare, very rare, in fact, that I see an Etsy seller who has this many just pure tutorial videos with that mindset of the people who buy my items on Etsy are going to want to have some instruction, yes, but to have them it's almost like a social thing, right? They're buying items from you, they get them, they open the package, and then they turn on your video, and it's like having you in the room with them. So they're sort of doing it with you. And then of course the inverse is also true, where people are watching your videos first. So they're introduced to you first in your videos. And then you say, hey, for these items, pop on over to my Etsy shop, which,
phew, I have a link.
which, you have your store. This is your, just a technical question. You're sending them over to your website as opposed to your Etsy shop. Is there a reason? What was behind that decision?
So I work full time. I work 4 days a week and single mum. And there is a limit to how much you can do. And I think that would be one of the pieces of advice that I'd say to people is just do what you can do. So I have a standalone website, but actually it's an awful lot of work to do Etsy, Amazon, eBay, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, standalone site. We're now up to 7 things. So I have a standalone website. I don't give it as much love as I perhaps should give it, but I can't do everything. And you have to be able to say, do you know what? I'm all right with that, because it will come as it evolves, and everything just evolves. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to do everything at once. It will evolve. So so some of them have got that link on, some of them will probably have my Etsy page link, depending on how long ago I did the video and depending on whether I've updated it or not.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, these videos are getting great views. I mean, this video has almost 2,000, I mean, it's got 1,600 views.
Yeah.
And again, that's for paper beads. I mean, that is such a niche item, and it's so, I think this is what I love about it, is it breaks the myth that I think most people would have if you told them, I have a business that brings me income regularly, and I teach people how to take a dowel and wrap it around paper. I mean, that's an oversimplification, because that's where our brains go with it. Our brains simplify things so that we can, so that we don't spend so much of our mental energy on them. But I think a lot of people would say, oh, you can't do that. That's too simple. No one's going to watch you sitting there for, how long is this video? This is
normally about 15 minutes maximum. So yeah, it's about 9.5 minutes.
Yeah, so this is almost a 10-minute video on you wrapping paper. Like if you told someone, hey, I've got a great idea. I'm going to do videos, 10-minute videos of me wrapping paper. People would look at you and go, that's never going to work. But clearly it does work. You've got 1,600 views.
Yeah. I think you've got to, if you're going to go into business, you've got to do it with something that you love and that you're passionate about. And by being passionate about it and by doing what you love, that's where you get your views from. And that's where you get people who want to subscribe to your channel. They want to follow you on Facebook. They want to, follow you on Instagram. They want to be part of your, they want to see what you're making next. I know I follow people on YouTube. I know I follow one lady who redoes dolls, like Monster High dolls. I have no intention of actually repainting a Monster High. I just watch it because it's entertaining and it's interesting to watch. And so there are probably an element of some people watching it just because it's interesting, and there are some people watching it because they want to see how to do it and they want to have a go and see what I've posted on Instagram or Facebook and see how I've actually done it.
Yeah, that's great. So let's, so you've got your Facebook. I think you have a group in here too, which we'll look at in the next segment where we drill down and kind of get really technical on the tips and tricks and things. But so just to make sure I've got everything, you've got the yeah, that's just playing another video through. You've got your Facebook, a Facebook group. Yeah. Well, here's everything right here. Let me pull up my notepad. Yeah. So I've got your Instagram. You've got an Etsy shop, which we've been talking about. Your YouTube, which we've talked about. Your Facebook, which we'll talk more about in the tips and tricks portion.
eBay.
You've got your eBay, right?
Yeah, I don't have an eBay shop.
Oh, you just sell on eBay, right?
I just sell on eBay. The eBay shops are expensive.
Yeah.
And I sell on Amazon Handmade.
Okay, you do sell on Amazon. So
I do normally sell on Amazon Handmade, yeah.
Okay. So you so I ask this question quite often with successful craft and crafters and artists, and it is this: everything, all of our revenue and activity usually falls into the a Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your revenue is coming from 20% of the places you're selling. So you're selling right now on Etsy, on your own website, on eBay, and on Amazon, those 4 places. So those 4 places, where is the majority, or 80, 80, 85, 90, 75, where is the majority of your sales coming from? What platform?
Definitely Etsy.
Okay.
Definitely Etsy. I'd say the other 2, eBay and Amazon Handmade, are sites that I list on and I leave them. I don't really faff around with them too much. And my website, I list and I leave, and the sales come in. They just come in naturally. Whereas I think Etsy, you have to work a lot harder for, especially in the UK, because Etsy isn't as well known in the UK. So I think if someone in the UK was looking for paper beads, they would probably look at eBay first or Amazon, and they might stumble across Etsy. I don't think Etsy advertises as much in the UK. So that's why I have those other 2 sites as well.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. Wow, that's a big bead there.
That's a huge one.
Wow.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, now that I know how they're made, I can see the lines there and I can see where the paper wraps around. That's great.
Yeah, so I'm just about to, in fact, about to do a YouTube tutorial on how to make beads that are that big. So I've got everything ready and yeah, just about to do a tutorial on it.
Perfect. So is this your helper here? Is this one of your co-business
Yeah,
owners?
it does. That was my little dog. That was little Dobby. Sadly not with us anymore, but always in our hearts. Yeah, that was our little helper Dobby.
Sweet face.
Yeah, I know. He was a lovely dog.
Okay, so all right, great.
Yeah,
So
as you
now,
can see, I will do all sorts of craft. And in fact, if you look at those, see those triangles? That side, that's these earrings. Those,
oh
that's
wow.
these earrings. I don't know if
And
you
what
can see my earrings.
are these? Yes, I can see. Those are great. Are those paper? What are those?
No, they are old CDs or DVDs.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I know.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So, all right, now Zoe, I'd like to get into some of the tips and tricks, how you're, where you're getting your traffic, how, you mentioned before how um, how you started on Etsy and didn't know what you were doing and made a trickle of sales, and then you started figuring things out. So I want to talk about that specifically. So let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna